Good morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever and whenever you are. My name is Benjamin, and welcome to another 2D hack and slash video. In this video, this is a pay what you want course. There are two links in the description where you can support me, either through itch.io or buying my pixel art course on Udemy. In this lecture, or lesson I should say, we're going to be adding in hitboxes for our character and potentially for our enemy. This week, I'm actually only going to be doing 2 lessons because it is Independence Day here in the United States this week, so I'm going to be out of town most of the week spending time with family. But I've still got 2 that I can do, and I'll be uploading those. So one on Tuesday and then one on Thursday. Okay. So we need to create a new object. So let's create a new object, and we'll call this O_hitbox. And we need to give this object a collision, and we'll have it collide with the knight right here. So let's do add an event. Then we'll do a collision event with the knight. And then we will write some code in here. We'll say with other instance destroy. Actually, we can just I forgot. In GameMaker. Okay, so if you're in GameMaker Studio 1.4, you'll have to do with other instance destroy like this. However, in GameMaker Studio 2, we can do instance destroy other like this. Okay? We can do it a little bit different in GameMaker Studio 2. Okay, so we've got a hitbox, and we've got it colliding with the knight, and it destroys the knight when it collides. Now, we need to set this hitbox to give it a sprite. But we're going to want to have different sprites every time we create a hitbox. We want to have one hitbox object that can have multiple sprites assigned to it depending on which attack we're using. Okay? So we're going to create a new script, and we'll name this script create hitbox. And this script will take an argument. Well, it's going to take a few arguments actually. So we'll do arg or param. I don't remember whether I've been using param or argument. It looks like I've been using argument, and I don't know, is this working? Move and collide. Move and yeah, it's working. We'll just use arg. And then we'll have an x argument, arg, a y argument, a sprite that we'll pass in, arg sprite, and we can give it some more arguments like a knockback, and a lifespan for how long that it lives, how long it's basically in the room, and then we'll give it a damage as well. And lastly, what we're going to need to do and we'll actually do this after the x and y, so we'll do an arg here. We need to tell it who created it. So basically, we're going to set up a system to where the hurtbox can be used by any object. But that also means that it can collide with any object, right? The enemies can use the same hurtbox object, so then that means their hurtboxes need to be able to collide with the player. But the player's hurtboxes we don't want them to collide with the player, only with the enemies. And so in order to do this, we're going to set up a system to where the hurt box knows who created it so that it doesn't ever damage the object that created it, and it can never deal damage to the object that created it. So we're going to put a variable in here, an argument called creator. Now let's create some local variables to store all of these arguments in. Well, actually, we're just going to assign them to the damage object, the hitbox. So say var hitbox equals instance create layer. Now in GameMaker Studio 1.4, you'll do instance create instead of instance create layer. And then we'll say, well, we'll still create some local variables for this. So we'll say var. We can't use x because that's a built-in variable, so we're going to get issues if we try and use x. So you could just use x position, or you could call it something like new x or something. Argument 0, var y position equals argument 1, var sprite equals argument 2, creator's before sprite. Var creator equals argument 2. And make sure you change sprite to argument 3 now. Var knockback equals argument 4. Lifespan equals argument 5. And then damage equals argument 6. Okay. So we'll create this at X position and Y position. And then the layer ID will be instances. And then the object that we want to create is O_hitbox. Okay, so we're doing something a little bit tricky here. We're calling instance create like we did before. This is actually very similar to what we did. It's exactly like what we did with our input object. We're creating the object and then we're assigning its ID to this variable so that we have access to it after we've created it. And now what we can do is we can set this information in the object. So we can say hitbox dot sprite index equals sprite hitbox dot, well, and we have to make this creator variable in the hitbox as well. So we'll open up our hitbox object and we'll add an event, add a create event. And we've got a few things that we want our hitbox object to have in the create event. So we want it to keep track of who created it. So creator equals, and for now we'll just set this to no one. Knockback equals 1, damage equals 1, and that's good. Okay. Now that we've set up these variables in here, we can set them inside of our create hitbox script. So we can say hitbox dot creator equals creator hitbox dot, let's see, what other ones do we have? Knockback equals knockback hitbox dot lifespan. Okay, let's do damage next. Dot damage equals damage. Let's talk about lifespan now a little bit. So we want to create a lifespan for how long this hitbox is up. And we can do this using what's called an alarm. So we'll say hitbox dot alarm like type alarm like this, it's a built-in value. Then do square brackets, 0 square brackets. That just tells it which alarm to use. Hitbox alarm 0 equals lifespan. So we're setting its lifespan, or we're setting an alarm in the hitbox object to whatever lifespan is, and that'll be in frames. Okay, and I think we've got everything done here with this hitbox. So now we have a script for creating hitboxes. Let's come back into our hitbox object, and we need to add in that alarm. So add an event, come to alarm, and alarm 0, because remember we set alarm 0. And inside of here, we'll just call instance destroy. And this will just destroy the hitbox after that specific amount of time. Okay, so let's test this out now, what we have so far. I'm going to open up the skeleton object, and we're going to come into our attack 1 state. Oh, there's one other thing we have to do actually. Inside of our hitbox, we need to tell it we need to be able to set the X scale of the hitbox based on the X scale of the player. So the direction the player is facing, obviously we want the hitbox to scale in that direction as well, to face that direction as well. So we need one more argument here. We'll just call it X scale. We'll do argument 7. And I'll set this up as an argument up here at arg X scale. And then finally down here, we'll just say hitbox.image X scale equals X scale. Okay. That way we can tell the hitbox which direction to face when we're attacking. So now we'll come into here, and inside of our attack 1 state, we can say, where's our sprite here? Attack 1. It looks like it's basically frame 1 where we want to create the hitbox for attack 1. It's a pretty quick attack. So we don't need this anymore. Let's come back to here, and we'll just say if animation, I'm going to double click on this so it's not like zoomed in kind of weird. There we go. If animation hit frame 0, which is frame 1 in this case, we're going to create a hitbox. Create hitbox. We need to pass in an X position and a Y position, so we'll do our current X position, our current Y position. We need to do a creator, which is just going to be, you can do self or you can do ID, whichever one you want to do. I'm just going to do self because I think it's a little more readable. Then we can do sprite, S, attack, S, skeleton, attack 1, damage. That's the sprite we want to use. And if you come look right here, I have just this image right here. It doesn't really matter that it's not cleaned up or anything, but we do need to set its origin. So we're going to set the origin to 24, or let's see. Yeah, 24 on the X and 48 on the Y. Just like the player character when it's using its attack. See? 24, 48. So it's basically the same image. Okay? So then we close this once that's set up. And so we set the sprite. Next is the knockback. And this value is going to be a little bit different depending on kind of how we set up a lot of stuff. So it's kind of hard to know exactly what to set the knockback to. It looks like I'm looking at my reference project right now. And it looks like I use some values. For now, let's do a knockback of 4. This may change later. and a lifespan of let's see. I don't know. I'm thinking we could do maybe 4 as well. 4 frames. Because our animation, but our animation's not speeding. It's not playing at 1 frame per step. It's playing at 0.7 frames per step. And we probably don't want it to last into the next attack. So let's do 4 for now. That won't be too many for sure. It might be a little too few. We'll kind of see how it looks. So we'll do 4 frames. And then damage, we'll just give it, this doesn't matter yet because we don't actually have stats yet. And then our X scale will be image X scale. There we go. So now our first attack should create a hitbox, and hopefully we might be able to see it even when we're playing the game. So I think I can see it there. Yep. And now we're hitting the enemies and killing them, and it looks like it's working in both directions correctly. Okay. Now we're going to turn off visible hitboxes, so we can just uncheck visible right here, and then we know that we won't see this anymore because we don't really need to see the hitboxes all the time, and it's just easier to set it up this way. Now let's set up our hitboxes for all of our other states or our other combos. I'm just going to copy this, the hit frame 0, and come into the attack 2 state. Put one in here. And we're going to change the sprite here, obviously, to attack 2 damage. And we'll need to set up the origin on this one. And it should be the same, I think. There we go. And then attack 3 damage, which is up here. Should be the same for the origin on this one. Okay. Once we've set up those origins, come back to the skeleton. And we'll do the same thing for attack 3. And just set this to attack 3. There we go. Now all 3 of our combos should work, so. Yep, so we kind of nicked it with that one. We might have to make sure that that one looks correct. So let's turn our hitboxes to visible again so we can make sure that they're in the correct position. Yep, that looks correct. But I don't think we want them on frame 1. So let's check attack 2. And it looks like attack 2 doesn't come out until the 2nd frame. So we want to set, that's part of the problem we're having, I think. So we'll come into the skeleton, attack 2, and we'll set this to come out on frame 2, the 2nd frame. And then let's check attack 3. And on attack 3, we don't lunge until the 3rd frame. So we'll come into attack 3 and set attack 3 to frame number 2, which is the 3rd frame, since it starts counting at 0. Okay, and this should look better now, so we don't get... There we go. The frames look much better. And now we can hide our hitboxes again. But that's convenient. You can easily turn your hitboxes on and off to make sure that you can see them well. So thank you guys so much for watching this lesson. I hope you enjoyed it and learned something, and I'll see you guys in the next one.